What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we've got another Transformers card to talk about. We have been waiting for Optimus Prime. We knew Optimus Prime was coming in the set. We saw him on the box, we saw him on the pack, we've been waiting for him. Well, great news, ladies and gentlemen. We've got ourselves an Optimus Prime. Is it any good? Let's take a look, shall we? We've also got a Stratagem man ahead, so we probably do need to start digging in here. So starting off of Optimus Prime, we have a 12-star character, which makes it pretty gosh darned expensive, which means it better be gosh darned worth it. And the stats are good. Health of 16 is very high. Attack of 5 or 6 is high. It's not phenomenal for a 12 cost, but it's pretty good. And the defense of 1 or 2 isn't. I like the health here, but honestly, for a 12 cost, I'd like to see some better stats. But we do have some skills as well. In bot mode, when you attack, you repair 1 damage from one of your characters. Then, if you have fewer characters on the battlefield than your opponent, you remove 1 more damage from that character. Oh, okay. See, at this stage, we're kind of in. For a while now, there has been a trend away from tool decks. When we say tool decks, we refer to a small number of big characters, and when we say wide decks, we are referring to a large number of very small, weak characters. And we've seen a little bit of a trend for big characters supported by 2 or 3 little uns, but the days when we used to play double primes have been a little bit left in the past. And this is a character right off the bat that's going, yo, alright mate, look, if you want to play double primes, you totally can. Now, I say totally can. We do need a little bit of an appendix here, a little bit of a note, a little bit of a caution, shall we say? Because there is one of the Optimus Prime you cannot play here. You see, Optimus Prime has had 2 generals, and the way 4 General Optimus Prime comes in as a 15-star character, you ain't fitting that in with a 12-star character here. My apologies, it's not happening. Boo, hiss, etc. The other thing you need to bear in mind here is that this is actually a body. It needs to have a head, so at minimum it's a 13-star character. You can take one of the other heads that's a 1-star, chuck it on with Optimus Prime and you're good to go. But you do need at least 13 stars, which actually makes it worse because now Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend is off the table. That's a 13-star character, you're a 12-star body, but you've got to have a head, which means you're a 26 stars minimum. That's not ideal. Now, the good news is we do still have one good Optimus Prime we can play, the General Optimus Prime that came around in Wave 3, which is still a very good card. It took 2nd at the Energon Invitational. That does come in at an 11-star, so if you play the 2 of them together, you've got 2 stars left over for a head. One of my main points here is, although this lets you play a tool deck, and it does, you do need to be very conscious of the fact that actually, well, yeah. Kind of makes things a little bit awkward, doesn't it? You're very expensive here. And double Optimus Prime, you've only really got one of the 3 good Optimus Prime that we would generally use that is available. If anybody's wondering about Nemesis Prime, because I did give Nemesis Prime a little bit of a shout out a moment ago, that comes in as a 12-star character. So again, as long as you play a 1-star head, you are ready to go here. Of course, the other option is you just wait for your other characters to be KO'd. You play this with 2 or 3 little support characters, make sure they go down first, and then Optimus Prime can sit there and just repair 2 from himself every turn. Important to note, it is 1 damage from one of your characters, which could be Optimus Prime or another, and it is 1 more from that character, so if you're healing 2, you are healing both from the same character. Moving over into alt mode here, when you flip to this mode, draw a card, and then if you have fewer cards in hand than your opponent, draw another card. This is a skill which I think is going to be a bit more difficult to really take advantage of. Doesn't mean you can't take advantage of it. It just means it's going to be a little bit more difficult to actually start really running away with. Now look, flipping over, drawing a card, it's still good, right? you still get to draw a card. And there's plenty of other characters that can draw one card. I'm not terribly impressed. Flipping over and drawing two is good. Generally speaking, if you want to draw two with a character, there needs to be some kind of downside. And this goes right back to Dinobot Snarl back in Wave 1 that drew two when you flipped to alt mode, as long as you had 0 cards in your hand. But then remember that at the time we also had, or we still do I suppose, have Dino Chomp, which will discard your entire hand while giving one of your Dinobots bold 5. Cool. So a decent skill. This one I find a little bit harder to really figure out. In bot mode, you can just play a 2-wide deck, and a lot of the time you'll have fewer characters in play, so you can get the healing quite reliably. As for the alt mode skill, I like the drawing. Are there going to be times you play cards you don't necessarily want to try and have a smaller hand size so that you can draw the extra card? Maybe. But then again, don't forget there are some cards that we can use to even the playing field. So if we take System Reboot as an example, each player scraps their hand and draws 4 cards. So if you played a System Reboot and then attached an upgrade, you would definitely have fewer cards in your hand. And then when you flipped over and drew 2, you would then have 5 cards, your opponent would have 4, but you would have played an upgrade. And there are other things that can do this kind of stuff, so there are ways to manipulate it, but you've got to be playing those specific cards. If you want this as a character, you could play Private Fix-It, that's got a tap skill letting you discard a white icon card from your hand, and then each player scraps a hand and draws 4 cards. That will work quite nicely. But then you're in a situation where you're playing a bunch of smaller characters, and that's going to make it more difficult to use the bot mode skill. So, I don't know. I honestly look at this and I just really like the idea of playing a 2-wide deck, a tall deck, and just getting a whole bunch of healing going on. Not to mention that we can do what Daniel Arnold did in the final of, or indeed in the whole tournament, for the Energon Invitational, where you play Energy Pack, which can only be attached to a character with 11 stars or more, but you can play 2 of them, that gives you an extra 4 health, and then get a whole bunch of healing on. That would be fun. I would enjoy that. Of course, the other thing to mention about Optimus Prime is there's a lot going on. You're a melee character in alt mode, but you're a ranged character in bot mode, so you've got all of those tricks available. You are a leader, which gives you access to things like Matrix of Leadership, another really good card that does see a fair amount of play. You are Optimus Prime, so you could use Ion Blaster of Optimus Prime to give yourself +2 attack and +1 defense. That would be a reason to try and play this with the Wave 3 General Optimus Prime. And you're a truck as well. And actually, let's not forget we've got Team Up Tactics. Team Up Tactics lets you heal 2 damage from a truck or point to a car and draw 2 cards. So again, if you're playing double trucks here, it's basically medic, but it's got a blue icon, which is good. And then you could really play a bit of a healing deck. I like this very much indeed. Now, the good news is we do have a stratagem here. As long as one of your characters other than Optimus Prime Legendary Warrior has been KO'd this game, your Optimus Prime Legendary Warrior has Brave, Focus 1, Bold 1, and Tough 1. That's a lot. Like an awful lot. Now, bearing in mind, when I revealed General Optimus Prime from Wave 3, I said it does everything. Because in bot mode, it's got Bold 1, Tough 1, and Focus 1. And then in alt mode, each of your other characters gets Bold 1 and Tough 1. So, now, look, if you're playing a 2-wide deck here, basically your other character goes down, and then this stays around. Of course, the other option is you play a big character with lots of little characters, you accept the fact that it's going to be later in the game that you start using the bot mode skill, or the body mode skill, I suppose, but you get to activate this stratagem nice and quickly. Now, the other thing to note about this stratagem, it is a 2-star stratagem. The only 2-star stratagem that we've seen so far. That means that if you play Optimus Prime with a stratagem and a 1-star head, you're up to 15 stars. If you play it with a suggested head we're going to look at in a minute, you're up to 17 stars, which gives you 8 for another character. This is becoming stupid expensive. To the point where I'd be tempted to potentially leave off the stratagem just because it turns you into a minimum 15-star character. Now, I'm tempted to leave it off for the cost, but look how good it is. Brave says that you must attack Optimus Prime if it's a valid target. Focus 1, when you battle, you may look at the top card of your deck and scrap it or keep it, which is good because if it's not one you want to flip this battle, get rid of it. Bold 1 lets you flip 1 more while attacking. Tough 1 lets you flip 1 more while defending. And essentially, you're just giving yourself a huge advantage. All of a sudden, you've got an attack of 6 with Focus 1 and Bold 1 and whatever else you've got from your upgrades. Or a defense of 2. Defense of 2 really isn't that great. But you've got Tough 1 and everything else. Focus 1 would help while defending also. It's pretty good. But it's 2 stars. And look, 2 stars for Focus 1, Bold 1, Tough 1 and Brave seems pretty good. Although I do have reservations about Brave because it forces you to be the target of an attack. Now, if you're playing a 2-wide deck, the Brave becomes irrelevant. Because you are the only target, your opponent has to attack you. But if you're playing 2 little characters with Optimus Prime, 1 goes down, the stratagem activates, and it is an automatic thing, then all of a sudden your opponent essentially has to go after Optimus Prime rather than your other little character, and that could be awkward. Or maybe your other little character is something like Flame War that's giving you a further boost for Bold and Tough, and actually you're feeling pretty good about this. As an example. Though honestly, fitting Flame War in here would not be a particularly easy thing to do. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, it is a really good stratagem, but it costs 2 stars and that spooks me. As for the head is Apex. It gives you stealth. Cool. I'm alright with that. Stealth here says that if there are any other valid targets, you cannot attack the character. It is the opposite of Brave, and we know from previous rulings that Brave and Stealth cancel each other out. So what you could do here is play Apex onto Optimus Prime so that Duty and Honor just gives you Focus 1, Bold 1 and Tough 1 and doesn't give you Brave. But then you're paying 5 stars for Focus 1, Bold 1 and Tough 1, and I think that's a bit too much. Especially given you're not really just paying 5 stars, you're also giving up the opportunity to play another head. And honestly, right, giving up the opportunity to play another head, I don't like it, ladies and gentlemen. I really don't. Honestly, my real leaning for head here would probably be Convex. But then Convex is a 4-star head. So even if you leave out the stratagem, you're sitting here rocking a 16-star character, which makes me very sad. Now, we do actually still have an Optimus Prime we could play if we were doing that. Back in, it wasn't actually there were a couple, but really the one we're looking at here was from the starter set, the Optimus Prime Autobot Leader. And Optimus Prime Autobot Leader came in the first starter set and was a 7 cost, so you could still play a double-wide Prime, whereby you play Convex along with Optimus Prime, that puts you at 16 stars, and then you play the other Optimus Prime for 7, puts you at 23, and you actually then do have access to Duty and Honor. So that is one option I would very much be looking at here, is playing double wide Prime with a starter set Prime and Convex. Now the reason I like Convex so much is because it gives you safeguard free. If you are undamaged, you can only take a maximum of 3 damage, and then you're healing with your bot mode, and when you're the only one left, or at least you've got fewer than your opponent, then all of a sudden you're healing 2 and all of that. It sounds good, and this could absolutely work. To go back for a moment to the head we've actually been given here, Apex. Free attack is fine, but not spectacular. 0 defense is bad. Free health is not great. I do appreciate that the free health means you're unlikely to be KO'd by cheeky damage. It can be done with a Bolt of Lightning, but Bolt of Lightning really isn't playing very much at the moment. We've got Marksmanship, but you'll survive a Marksmanship. The combination of Marksmanship and Armed Hovercraft, which a bunch of people do play, will take you out, but I think you'll probably be okay here. Honestly, I'm really not a big fan of Apex as a whole. I don't like the stats. I don't think it's a great 3-star head. If you really want stealth to keep a character from being attacked, this is a great option and I love it. But that's essentially where we are here. You've got to really want stealth, it's as simple as that. In terms of Optimus Prime, I'm not loving it with Apex myself, but I am loving both the skills, and I like it either with the General Optimus Prime from Wave 3, or I like it with Convex and the starter deck Optimus Prime, which would allow me to play the Stratagem as well. Man, this video took longer than I thought it would, but you know what? There's a lot to talk about, and I make no apologies. This was fun. I've been waiting to see Optimus Prime for a while, as I'm sure a lot of you have, and I'm delighted that we finally have seen it. But I'd like to know what you think about Optimus Prime, what you think about the Stratagem, what you think about Apex, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter @TheWassy, where we talk Transformers and Digimon and all kinds of games. And do please consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, all that good stuff. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wassy Plays.